Today, June 12th, St. Jude's Cathedral. The humidity is exactly 84%. It clings to the skin like a damp, unwanted hand. The air inside the nave is thick with the scent of 5,000 white roses. Avalanche roses. Imported from a high-altitude farm in Ecuador. Price: $15.50 per stem, excluding the $4,000 shipping and refrigeration fee. I sat in the third row and counted the pillars. 10 pillars, each wrapped in 50 yards of Italian silk tulle. Retail: $45 per yard. I did the math while the organist practiced the arrival of the Queen of Sheba. The floral and decor budget alone was $82,400. My mother's annual salary as a mid-level office administrator is $42,500 after taxes. The math is a ghost. It doesn't exist in the real world. Unless you factor in the $120,000 that used to be my future. I am sitting in the third row, the family row. The bench is made of solid oak, polished until it reflects the light of the $10,000 altar candles. I am wearing a dress I bought at a clearance outlet for $45.99, navy blue, polyester blend. The kind of fabric that doesn't breathe, just like this family. She was wearing a silk Mother of the Bride gown by Oscar de la Renta. Price: $8,600. She was wearing Grandmother Evelyn's pearls, 32 perfectly matched Akoya pearls. Grandmother told me when I was 12, "These are for your medical school graduation, Elena. A healer needs something timeless." My mother touched the pearls with fingers that smelled of $500 an ounce night cream. She didn't look at my eyes. She looked at my navy blue dress. "Elena," she said. Her voice was a thin layer of icing over a cold cake. "Try not to look so gray. It's your sister's day to shine. Don't let your resentment dim her light. Clara only has this one moment. You have your charts? Your books. Don't be the person who ruins a dream because of a few numbers." I didn't blink. I just watched a bead of sweat roll down her neck, disappearing into the pearls. The weather report was clear. No wind, just a cold, steady front moving in. Flashback to November 2019. Grandmother Evelyn's bedroom. The room smelled of peppermint tea and the metallic tang of an oxygen concentrator. The walls were covered in faded floral wallpaper that was peeling at the corners. She called me to her bedside at 3:14 a.m. She handed me a leather-bound folder. The leather was cracked, the color of dried blood. "Elena," she whispered. Her voice was the sound of dry leaves skittering across the sidewalk. "This is the trust. $120,000. It is for the surgeon, not the socialite. I've put your mother's name on it as a secondary trustee, just in case. But Elena, promise me. Promise me you'll use it to repair the broken, not to decorate the vanity." I promised. I kissed her hand. Her skin felt like damp tissue paper. I thought the joint access was a safety net. I thought my mother was the guardian of the dream. I didn't realize she was the auditor of my soul. I didn't realize that in her mind, my stability was a license to rob me. Let's look at the parallel contrast of our childhood. 2005. Clara's 10th birthday. She got a professional-grade tutu from Paris. And a party at a 5-star hotel with a real pony. Cost $3,500. My 10th birthday, 3 months later. I got a used encyclopedia set with a missing M volume and a cake from the grocery store with my name misspelled. Cost $45. My mother said, "Elena is so mature. She doesn't need the fluff. She appreciates the value of knowledge." Clara's prom. She got a custom-made gown with hand-sewn crystals and a limousine that waited for 6 hours. Cost $2,800. My prom, I got a hand-me-down from a cousin that was 3 inches too short and smelled like mothballs. I stayed home and studied for the AP biology exam. My mother said, "Elena has a career. Clara has a glow. You can't put a price on a girl's glow." If you are watching this, please subscribe. Leave a comment and tell me, When did you realize you were the utility child? When did you realize your family only loved you for the weight you could carry? 2000, the discovery. I was 25 years old. I had just received my acceptance letter to the Johns Hopkins residency program. The envelope was thick. The paper was heavy. I went to the bank on a Tuesday afternoon. The sky was a bruised purple, threatening a storm that never came. I walked to the teller window. The teller's name tag said Brenda. I asked to withdraw $40,000 for the first semester's tuition and housing deposit. Brenda clicked her mouse once, twice. Then she looked at me. The pity in her eyes was a physical weight. "I'm sorry, Miss Vance," she said. "The trust account ending in 8,802? It was liquidated 3 weeks ago. The funds were transferred in 3 installments. Installment 1, $50,000 to Vera Wang Bridal. Installment 2, $40,000 to a private offshore account." I stood there. I didn't scream. I didn't faint. I just watched a fly land on the glass of the teller window. I watched it rub its legs together. I realized that for 28 years I had been building a house of cards, and my mother had just used them to light a cigarette. I called her from the bank parking lot. The rain finally started. Cold, needle-like drops. She picked up on the first ring. She sounded breathless, happy. "Elena, you won't believe it. The lace arrived from Lyon. Clara looks like an angel." "The money is gone, Mom." I said it with the same tone I used to call a time of death. "Oh, Elena," she said. The happiness didn't leave her voice. It just became defensive. "Clara is marrying a Thomas, a Vanderbilt. She needs to look like she belongs in that world. You have a brain. You're smart. You'll get a loan. People give loans to doctors, but nobody gives a loan to a girl whose beauty is her only asset. I'm just balancing the scales. Clara has the moment. Don't be the person who ruins her sister's life over a bank balance." "It was grandmother's gift, Mom. Grandmother was old and confused," she whispered. "She didn't understand that Clara is the face of this family. You are the backbone, Elena. The backbone stays in the dark. That's its job." I sat in my car. The heater was broken. I shivered for exactly 7 minutes. Then I reached into my bag. I pulled out a notebook. I didn't write a letter of protest. I started a ledger. Column A, the theft. Column B, the debt. Column C, the interest. I realized then that if I was the backbone, I was also the structure. And if I moved, the whole building would collapse. I decided that I wouldn't move until the wedding day. I wanted the tower to be at its highest point before I pulled the base. Now look at Clara. She is at the back of the cathedral. The vision has arrived. The French lace veil is 20 feet long. It cost $250 per yard. It is being held by 4 flower girls in $400 silk dresses. She is smiling at Thomas. Thomas, the Vanderbilt John. Thomas, the man who wears a $30,000 watch that I know is a high-quality replica from a street market in Bangkok. Thomas, whose family name is real, but whose bank account is a graveyard of credit card debt. My mother is dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief. She looks at me and winks. "See?" her eyes say. The sacrifice was worth it. Look at how beautiful she is. She doesn't know that I spent my last 6 months of stability doing something else. I didn't take out a student loan. I took out a private bridge loan in my mother's name, using her forged signature. I used the childhood home as collateral, the house she thinks is safe. The loan is for $250,000. The interest rate is 22%. The first payment was due yesterday. It wasn't paid. I reach into my navy blue clutch. I feel the cold, sharp edges of the legal documents. The order of foreclosure. The notice of asset seizure. And a very specific dossier on Thomas Vanderbilt and his 3 previous bankruptcies. The organist plays the final triumphant chord. The priest steps forward. "We are gathered here today, They are beautiful. They are also dying. Just like the lie that built this room, the sturdy chair is moving, and I'm going to enjoy every second of the fall. The silence in a cathedral is never truly silent. It is a vibration. A low-frequency hum of air moving through organ pipes and the rustle of 500 guests shifting in their seats. I sat there, 4 drawer, no, row 3, and looked at Thomas's neck. The skin was slightly red, irritated by a collar that was a 1/4 inch too tight. A bespoke shirt, my mother had bragged. 450. I knew it was off the rack from a discount warehouse. The labels swapped by a dry cleaner for $10. I knew because I saw the original receipt in the trash when I was helping Mom with the laundry. Flashback to February. The first meeting. A steakhouse downtown called the Obsidian. The lighting was designed to make everyone look like they were in a 1940s noir film. The menus didn't have prices. If you have to ask, you don't belong, my mother whispered. She looked at Thomas like he was a religious relic. He was wearing a Patek Philippe Nautilus. Reference 5711. In the dim light, it glowed with the authority of old money. But I am a scientist. I am trained to see the anomaly. The second hand didn't sweep. It had a microscopic stutter. A $300 super clone from a factory in Guangdong. The Vanderbilt heir was wearing a lie on his wrist. Thomas leaned across the table. The scent of his cologne was Aventus by Creed. $435 a bottle. Or, more likely, a $20 oil-based dupe from an online vendor. He looked at me with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. Elena, he said. His voice was a practiced baritone. Clara says you're the academic, the one who stays in the lab while the rest of us live. It must be peaceful to have a life so small that a microscope can contain it. My mother laughed. A sharp, tinkling sound that reminded me of breaking glass. Oh, Thomas, Elena is our anchor. Every ship needs an anchor to stay in one place while the sails catch the wind. She's steady. She's the one who makes sure the taxes are filed while Clara's at the polo club. Thomas nodded, adjusting his cuffs. An anchor, he repeated. Necessary, but heavy, and usually under the mud. I looked at my steak, a Wagyu ribeye. It cost $145. Exactly $12.08. I thought about the $12.08. That was the cost of a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread in the real world. The world where I paid for my mother's glitching bank app. When the bill came, $912.45. My mother did the dance. She patted her Dior clutch. Oh dear, my phone is dead, and my cards are in my other bag. Elena, dear, could you... Just a temporary bridge. Think of it as an investment in your sister's happiness. I pulled out my card. A plain gray debit card. The sturdy chair paid the bill. Thomas didn't offer to tip. Clara didn't say thank you. She was too busy staring at Thomas's fake watch, dreaming of a life made of gold leaf and champagne. If you are watching this, look at the Thomas in your life. The one who talks about potential and legacy, while you're the one holding the wallet. The one who calls you grounded so they can keep their head in the clouds on your dime. Subscribe if you've ever paid the bill for someone else's vision. Flashback to March. I spent my nights in the hospital library, not studying anatomy, studying Thomas. I am a surgeon. I know how to dissect a body. I also know how to dissect a digital trail. Thomas Vanderbilt was born Thomas Higgins. His father was a bankrupt car salesman in Ohio. His mother was a lifestyle coach with 3 fraud convictions. Thomas had no trust fund. He had 3 eviction notices in 3 different states. He was a predator. And my mother had handed him my $120,000 as bait. I realized then that they were perfect for each other. My mother wanted the status. Thomas wanted the cash. Clara wanted the dream. And I was the one who was supposed to pay for the I decided to let the play continue. I decided that if they wanted a royal wedding, I would give them the full Shakespearean tragedy. I contacted a private lender, the Grey Ghost Capital. They specialize in high-risk, high-interest loans for people who are desperate to maintain appearances. I used my mother's identity. I knew her social security number by heart because I'd used it to set up her medical portals for years. I signed her name to a $250,000 bridging loan. The interest was 22%. The collateral was the house, the childhood home with the wraparound porch and the oak tree where I used to hide. She thought the $120,000 she stole from me would be enough. She didn't realize that in the world of visions, $120,000 is just the down payment for the flowers. Now, back in the cathedral, the organist is hitting the low C1. The floor is vibrating. Clara is at the altar. Her veil is a $5,000 piece of lace that is currently catching on a splinter in the wood. She doesn't know it's tearing. She doesn't know that the Vanderbilt next to her is wondering if he can sell the wedding ring before the debt collectors find him. I look at my mother. She is radiant. She is the mother of the bride. She is the architect of the vision. She is also, as of 9 a.m. this morning, technically homeless. The priest says, "I now pronounce you." I reach into my bag. I feel the blue envelope. The notice of Caesar. The writ of execution. The transition from the reliable one to the auditor is a quiet process. It doesn't happen with a scream. It happens with a spreadsheet. April 2021. I was working a double shift at the trauma center. The smell of blood and industrial lavender cleaner was etched into my skin. My lunch was a $18.50 prepackaged sandwich from the hospital cafeteria. Turkey and Swiss on dry wheat. The turkey was processed. The Swiss was waxy. I ate it while sitting on a plastic chair in the break room, looking at the loan documents on my phone. My mother called. "Elena, the catering deposit is due." The Vanderbilt family expect top-tier caviar. We're $15,000 short. I know you've been saving your bonus. Don't be the person who puts a price on family honor. I don't have it, Mom. The bonus went to the tuition loan I had to take out. A loan? Elena, you're so dramatic. You're a doctor. You'll be rich soon. But Clara's youth is a fleeting resource. We have to capitalize on it now. I found a way, though. I've signed a small agreement. A halo loan. They call it because it protects the family's light. I just need you to co-sign as the stable one, as the guarantee. I looked at the waxy cheese. I realized she wasn't asking. She was telling me she had already tried to use my name, but my credit was locked. I had locked it the day I left the bank in November. I was the only thing she couldn't steal, so I gave her the rope. I won't co-sign, Mom, but I know a lender who doesn't require a doctor's signature. They only require property. I gave her the number for Grey Ghost Capital. I knew the broker. I had advised the broker on the true value of the house. I told my mother it was a family preservation fund. I told her it was a gift from me to Clara. She called me a saint. She called me the backbone. She didn't see the 22% interest. She didn't see the immediate repossession clause for a single missed payment. She was too busy looking at the Vanderbilt crest she wanted to embroider on the napkins. Let's look at the parallel contrast of the wedding prep. May 2021. Clara got a $400 facial using crushed pearls and 24-karat gold. I got a 15-minute shower in the hospital locker room using a bar of generic soap. Clara got a wellness retreat in the Hamptons to align her chakras before the big day. Cost? $6,200. I got an extra 10 hours of on-call duty because I couldn't afford the gas to drive home. My mother said, "Elena, you look so gray. You really should invest in some skincare. You're letting the family down with that tired face. Clara is the vision. You are the utility. And utility isn't supposed to look pretty. It's just supposed to work." I worked the numbers. I watched the Grey Ghost Capital ledger. The first payment was due June 11th, the day before the wedding. I knew my mother didn't have it. She had spent the last of the cash on a custom fragrance for the cathedral. $2,500 for a scent that smelled like purity and legacy. To me, it smelled like desperation and unpaid bills. Now, back to the cathedral. June 12th. The vision is complete. Clara is standing at the altar in $30,000 of stolen tuition. Thomas is standing there in a fake Patek Philippe. The priest is talking about, for richer, for poorer. I look at the man in the charcoal suit at the back of the room. He isn't a guest. He is the service. He is the debt. He is the repossession. He is holding a blue envelope with my mother's name on it. My mother is dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief that cost $150. She is leaning toward Aunt Martha. It was a struggle, but I've ensured my daughters are taken care of. One has them. She doesn't know that the mind has just foreclosed on the life. She doesn't know that when she leaves this cathedral, the visions will end. The weather report. Hurricane Elena. Category 5. Landfall. Now. The silence following the priest's question, if anyone has reason, is usually a formality. A 2-second pause for the sake of tradition. But I stretched it. I didn't stand up. Standing up is for the bitter one. Standing up is for the dramatic one. I am the stable one. I stayed seated. I simply took out my phone. I hit the share button on the dossier I had prepared for the local society rag, the Lux Ledger, the Vanderbilt Vanity, a wedding of stolen trusts and fake watches. At the back of the cathedral, the man in the charcoal suit moved. He didn't run. He walked with the clinical efficiency of a man who does this 3 times a week. He reached the front row just as Thomas was taking Clara's hand. "Thomas Higgins?" he said. The name Higgins echoed off the marble pillars. It sounded like a curse word in a library. Thomas froze. His fake Patek Philippe caught the light. "I'm sorry, we're in the middle of a ceremony. You're in the middle of being served for 3 counts of interstate fraud," the man said. He handed a blue envelope to Thomas. Then he turned to my mother. "Susan Vance?" My mother's face went from radiant champagne to a dull, ashy gray. I am the mother of the bride. This is a sacred event. This is a foreclosure notice for 142 Maple Street, the man said. His voice was a flat, monotone report. The Grey Ghost Capital has executed the seizure clause. The property is now under bank control. And this wedding? The vendors have been notified that the payment bonds are fraudulent. The organist stopped playing. The silence was absolute. It was the sound of the $82,400 flowers wilting in real time. Clara turned to Thomas. "Thomas? Who is Higgins? What is he talking about?" Thomas didn't look at her. He looked at the exit. The Vanderbilt air was gone. The predator had found a trap. "Susan," he hissed at my mother. "You told me the trust was $500,000. You told me the house was worth double. You're a fraud," my mother gasped, clutching her grandmother's pearls. "I invested in you. I gave you Elena's money." Clara's scream was the sound of a vision shattering. She reached out to grab Thomas's arm, her fingers hooking into the $200 per yard French lace of her veil. Thomas pulled away. Rip. A long, jagged sound that filled the cathedral. The $5,000 veil was now a $0 rag. Thomas didn't stay for the cake. He didn't stay for the I do. He ran down the aisle, past the 5,000 white roses, past the shocked aunts, past me. He didn't look back. He was a rat leaving a sinking ship, realizing the ship was made of cardboard. I stood up. I smoothed the wrinkles in my $45 navy blue dress. I looked at my mother. She was on the floor, her Oscar de la Renta gown bunched up around her knees. She looked at me with eyes that finally saw me. Not as a chair, but as a scalpel. You knew. You did this. You ruined your sister's life. No, Mom, I said. My voice was the weather report. The math ruined the life. I just provided the audit. You spent the future on a lie. I'm just here to collect the past. I walked toward the exit. The sturdy chair was leaving the room. And I've never felt lighter. The aftermath of a collapse is the most productive time for a builder. The week following the wedding was the grind montage of my new reality. I moved into a studio apartment, 450 square feet. The view was a brick wall. The radiator hissed like a wounded animal. But the lock on the door was mine. The silence was mine. The stability was mine. Flash back to the 2000 days of the grind. I was the chief resident of surgery. I worked 100-hour weeks. I lived on hospital cafeteria, black coffee, and $3 protein bars. I didn't buy a car. I didn't buy a house. I bought a Mont Blanc Meisterstück fountain pen. $450. I used it to sign my surgical charts. I used it to sign my new apartment lease. It was a reminder that my words had weight. My signature was the only thing in the family that wasn't a lie. Let's look at the parallel contrast of the current day. My mother is living in a one-bedroom rental above a laundromat. The silk gowns are gone. The pearls are in a pawn shop in the city. She spends her days calling Thomas, but the number is disconnected. She calls me too. Elena, Clara is depressed. She's working at the mall. She's selling polyester blends to teenagers. She needs her sister. She needs the stable one to fix the math. I look at my Mont Blanc pen. I look at the glass walls of my new office at the Surgical Institute. I am the youngest head of surgery in the history of the hospital. I am a legend. Not because of a vision, but because of the grind. I can't help, Mom, I say. I am looking at a 3D model of a human heart. I'm a surgeon. I only treat the patients who can be saved. Clara isn't sick. She's just ordinary. And you? You're just a ghost in a silk-stained memory. You're a monster, she screams into the phone. The final microaggression. You think you're better than us because you have them, but you're still the gray girl. You're still the one nobody wants to look at. I smile. It is a cold, clinical movement of the lips. You're right, Mom. Nobody looks at the backbone. But without it, the body is just a pile of meat on the floor. Enjoy the view from down there. I hang up. I pick up my $450 pen. I sign the final approval for a new surgical wing. A wing dedicated to Evelyn Vance. The woman who knew that the smart one was the only one who could survive the pretty one. I walk to the window. The city is bright. The lights look like diamonds. But I know they are just electricity. I know the cost of the power. I know the math of the grid. I am the sturdy chair. And I am finally perfectly alone. The morning after a revolution is never cinematic. It is usually just quiet and very, very expensive. June 13th. The grand ballroom of the St. Jude's Hotel. The air smells like stale champagne and wilted white roses. The avalanche roses from Ecuador. Now they look like crumpled napkins dipped in tea. I stood at the entrance of the ballroom at 8 a.m. I was wearing my hospital scrubs. Seal blue, 65% polyester, 35% cotton. I had a 12-hour shift starting in 30 minutes. I didn't come for the breakfast. I came for the receipt. The banquet manager, a man named Marcus with a tired tie and a $15 haircut, approached me. He held a black leather folder. Dr. Vance, he said. The credit cards on file for the Vance Vanderbilt wedding, they all declined at midnight. The catering, the open bar, the cleaning fee for the silk tulle. The total is $22,418.52. I looked at the number. I didn't blink. I took out my Mont Blanc pen. I didn't sign the check. I simply wrote the words, "Not my debt," on the bottom of the invoice. "The primary trustee is Susan Vance," I told Marcus. "The secondary was Thomas Higgins. I was just the stable one who booked the tour. I'm sure you have their current address. Though as of 9 a.m. yesterday, the address for Susan Vance is technically a park bench. Age 26. I was working 3 jobs. Medical student research assistant. Night shift pharmacy tech. My bank account was a war zone. I lived in a studio where the only view was the trash chute. I ate 45 cents ramen noodles and $1 canned tuna for 3 years. My mother called me then. "Elena, Clara needs a new portfolio. The headshots are $800. You have the big job at the pharmacy. Don't be the person who holds back a star." I paid the $800. I worked 48 hours without sleep to replace the $800. I looked at the $22,480.52 invoice. I realized that for 10 years, I had been the hidden mortgage of their lives. I was the one who made the numbers work so they didn't have to understand math. The math had finally caught up to them. I saw my mother in the corner of the lobby. She was sitting on a velvet sofa that cost $3,000. She was still wearing the Oscar de la Renta gown. It was stained at the hem with red wine and reality. Her skin was like parchment that had been left in the rain. She saw me. She saw the seal blue scrubs. She saw the Mont Blanc pen. "Elena," she croaked. Her voice was the sound of a dry well. "The hotel, they won't let us leave. They say the cards are dead. Thomas is gone. Clara is in the bathroom trying to wash the mascara off the lace. Pay them, Elena. Just this once. Be the backbone." The cold metal felt like an anchor of truth. "The backbone is out of the building, Mom. I've spent 2,190 days paying for visions. I've spent $120,000 on a wedding for a man named Higgins. The ledger is closed. The bank is at 0, and the stable one is going to surgery." I didn't look at the $82,400 of dying flowers. I didn't look at the Queen Mother on the $3,000 sofa. I got into my used Volvo. I drove to the hospital. I had a heart to repair. A heart that actually had a pulse. 6 months after the cathedral collapse in November 2021, the humidity is gone, replaced by a biting, dry wind that smells of exhaust and winter. I was at the West Shore Mall, a place of fluorescent lights and the smell of pretzels and desperation. I was there to buy a specific brand of compression socks. Compression Solutions. $34.99 a pair. Necessary for a surgeon who stands for 10 hours a day. I saw her near the food court. Clara, the Vision. She was standing in a booth for Candle Cloud. Buy 2, get 1 free. Her name tag was plastic pinned crookedly to her chest. Clara, Associate. Her hair, once the pride of the Vance family, was flat. The $300 styling was replaced by a $5 bottle of drugstore shampoo. She was cleaning a smudge off a glass jar of mountain pine wax. I didn't hide. I am the stable one. I walk with the gravity of a woman who knows her worth. I walked toward the booth. The linoleum squeaked under my $280 leather boots. Clara looked up. She didn't smile. She didn't glow. Her face was a weather report of a city that had been under a permanent cloud. "Elena," I looked at the candles. "Mountain pine," I read. "Does it smell like the mountains, Clara? Or does it just smell like chemicals and 18% interest? Is that why you're here?" she hissed. The microaggression was a reflex. To mock me? To see the Vision in an apron? "Mom is living in a basement. Elena, the space heater is broken. She wears her silk coat to bed because she can't pay the gas bill. And you have the big title. You have the clean apartment. You have grandmother's pearls. I have grandmother's trust. Clara, The one you spent on a fake Vanderbilt? I remember the temperature in my apartment during residency. 52 degrees. I studied with a blanket over my head because I was paying for your polo club membership. I remember the smell of store-brand soup. I remember the weight of the ladder. "We are family," she cried. A few teenagers near the Sparrow looked over. Family is supposed to forgive. Forgiveness is a spiritual concept, Clara. Debt is a financial one. I don't forgive theft. I don't forgive 2,000 days of being treated like a servant. You told me I was the anchor. Well, anchors belong at the bottom of the ocean. I'm just enjoying the view from the deck. I didn't buy a candle. I didn't give her a $20 bill. I went to the compression solutions store. I paid $34.99. I walked out of the mall. The vision stayed behind the glass jars of wax, selling the scent of a forest to people who could never afford the trees. January 2022. The audit of souls reaches the courtroom. My mother sued me. Filial support, an ancient law in a modern world. She wanted $2,500 a month. She claimed she was indigent. She claimed I had abandoned my duty. She wore a cardigan she had bought at a thrift store. $4. She looked at the judge with eyes that had practiced the grieving mother look for 40 years. "I gave her my heart," she sobbed. "I gave her the best years of my life. I made her the surgeon she is today. And now she lets me live in a cellar while she wears $15,000 pearls." The judge was a woman named Patterson. She had a face like a mountain. Old. Unmoving. "Dr. Vance," she said, "do you have a response?" I didn't use a lawyer. I don't need a voice when I have a ledger. I opened my leather briefcase. $1,200. I pulled out a folder. "Your Honor," I said. My voice was the weather report. "This is the itemized list of my mother's sacrifice. $120,000 stolen from my trust fund. Item 2. $250,000 high-interest loan she signed in my name using a house she didn't own. Item 3. $42,000 of my personal salary spent on her sister's vision over 5 years. I have been the filial support since I was 15. I handed over the spreadsheet. Column A, the theft. Column B, the debt. Column C, the interest. The judge read it for 15 minutes. The only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. A cheap plastic clock. Price? $15. It sounded like a hammer hitting a nail. The judge looked at my mother. "Ms. Vance," she said. "This ledger shows that your daughter has already provided 3 lifetimes of support. You did not raise a surgeon. You raised a bank, and the bank is closed. Case dismissed." I stood up. I adjusted my navy blue coat. $850. My mother looked at me. The grieving mother mask slipped. "You think you're so smart, Elena. But you're still the gray one. You'll always be alone in that big hospital." "I am never alone, Mom. I am surrounded by people who respect my precision. I am surrounded by a life I built without a single stolen lace. Enjoy the basement. I hear the rent is free if you do the dishes." March 2023. The childhood home. 142 Maple Street. The house with the wrap-around porch where my mother used to talk about legacy while I was inside scrubbing the grout. It was sold at a public auction. A developer bought it. Price: $850,000. He was build a modern duplex. Steel and glass. No place for ghosts. I drove past it on a rainy Tuesday. The sky was the color of a bruised oyster. I saw a figure on the sidewalk. A woman in a gray coat. It was my mother. She was staring at the demolition sign. She was holding a plastic bag with 2 bruised apples and a loaf of bread. She reached out and touched the peeling paint on the fence. The white fence. The one I had painted when I was 16. I remember the cost of the paint. $25 a gallon. I remember the blisters on my hands. She didn't see me. I was a shadow behind the tinted glass of my Audi. I watched her touch the wood. She was looking for the vision. She was still waiting for the Vanderbilt to come back and turn the wood into gold. She didn't understand that the gold was never in the house. The gold was in the girl she called the anchor. And the girl had taken the gold and built a mountain. I saw a bulldozer move into the front yard, the same yard where Clara had her royal birthday with the real pony. The shovel hit the porch. Crush. The wood splintered. The legacy was becoming a pile of toothpicks. My mother screamed, but the wind took the sound and buried it. I put the car in gear. I didn't offer her a ride. I didn't offer her an apple. I drove toward the highway. The tires hissed on the wet pavement. A clean, consistent sound. 100% chance of a new life? I pick up my Mont Blanc pen. $450. I look at the nib. So precise. So stable. I didn't write a check. I didn't write a reply. I simply pressed a stamp onto the envelope. Red. Ink. Return to sender. Clara emailed me 2 weeks ago. She is still selling candles. She wanted $500 for a professional wardrobe. She said she has an interview for a receptionist job. She said she wants to reclaim her glow. One sentence. Glow is free, Clara. But the electricity bill is not. Earn it yourself. I walk to the window. I look at the city that was once occupied by endless stairs. It belongs to me now. Not because I am beautiful, but because I am stable. Not because I fly high, but because I took everyone who tried to fly by stepping on me, and I dropped them all onto the floor. I'm Elena Vance. I am the invisible child. I am the one who held the ladder. Now I've burned the ladder to light my path to the top. And the view from here? It is truly expensive. Today, the sky is a flat industrial gray. The kind of weather that makes everything look like a CCTV recording. I am standing across the street from Golden Grime pawnbrokers. The sign is neon. It flickers with a hum that sounds like a dying insect. The frequency is exactly 60 hertz. I am watching the door. My mother walks in at 10:14 a.m. She is wearing her gray coat, the one with the coffee stain on the pelepel that looks like a map of a country she'll never visit. She is carrying a small velvet box. The blue velvet is worn at the corners. It looks like a bruised fruit. Inside are the pearls. Grandmother Evelyn's Akoya pearls. 32 stones. 14 mm diameter. AAA luster. Appraised value in 2018, $15,400. I watch her through the window. The lighting inside the shop is fluorescent. Cool white. It shows every crack in her foundation. It shows the way her fingers tremble when she opens the box. The pawnbroker is a man named Saul. He wears a jeweler's loop like a third eye. He looks at the pearls. He looks at my mother. He sees the grieving matriarch mask. He doesn't care about the mask. He only cares about the naker. Flash back to 2016. I was 22. I was working a graveyard shift at the trauma center. I came home at 7 a.m. My eyes were bloodshot. My hands were shaking from too much caffeine and too little hope. I saw my mother in the kitchen. She was polishing those pearls with a silk cloth. They're so beautiful, aren't they, Elena? They represent a life of grace. A life Clara was born for. You're more of a stainless steel girl. Practical. Durable. You don't need the luster to be useful. I looked at my hands. They were stained with the ink of 100 medical charts. I realized then that in her world, stainless steel wasn't a compliment. It was a sentence. It meant I was the tool. Clara was the jewelry. The tool is used until it breaks. The jewelry is protected until it's sold. Now back to the put. Saul writes a number on a yellow slip. $1,200. It is a joke. It is a slap. It is 7.7% of the actual value. I can see her mouth moving. She's talking about legacy. She's talking about family honor. Saul shrugs. He points to the Vance Vanderbilt headline on the tabloid sitting on his counter. The $500,000 wedding built on theft? The legacy is toxic. The luster is gone. She takes the $1,200. She leaves the pearls. She walks out into the industrial gray rain. She doesn't see me in my Audi. I pick up my phone. I call Saul. Elena Vance? I'll take the Akoya pearls. I'll pay $1,500. Keep the change for the loop. The pearls are in a plastic bag on the passenger seat. They don't look like Grace anymore. They look like a paid-in-full invoice. November 20th. The mall is preparing for the holidays. The golden child is preparing for her shift. I am standing by the water is recycled. It smells of chlorine and pennies. I see Clara walking toward the candle cloud booth. She is wearing her polyester apron. The vision is now a seasonal associate. Her skin is no longer glowing. It is the color of a cubicle wall. She has a pimple on her chin. She tried to cover it with cheap foundation. It looks like a small volcano under a layer of beige dust. She is carrying a 99-cent cup of coffee. The brown liquid is staining her buy two get one free sign. Flashback to 2019. Claire's wellness retreat in Sedona. She spent $6,000 of my tuition on aura cleansing. She sent me a photo of her standing on a red rock. I feel so aligned, Elena. The universe wants me to be a vessel for beauty. You should try it. You look so blocked. Maybe it's all that science you keep in your head. I was blocked. I was blocked by a 100-hour work week. I was blocked by a $40,000 debt. I was blocked by the reality that Vessels for Beauty still need someone to pay for the gas to get to Sedona. Now, I walk up to her booth. The scent is Christmas cookie. It is cloying. It is the smell of artificial butter and forced joy. One for $12.50, Clara? Or is there a family discount for the anchor? Clara doesn't look up at first. She's arranging the jars. We don't do discounts, ma'am. She stops. She sees my coat. Burberry. Sandstone. $2,200. She sees my face. Stable. Cold. Elena. You look aligned, Clara. The polyester really brings out the stability in your eyes. I'm working, Elena, she hisses. I'm trying to survive. Mom is sick. She has a cough that won't go away. She needs medicine. She needs a doctor. She has a doctor, I say. Me, and my diagnosis is acute consequence. The treatment is accountability. It's a bitter pill. Most people choke on it. You're a monster, she whispers. She drops a candle. The glass shatters. Mountain pine spreads across the linoleum. It doesn't smell like a forest. It smells like a chemical spill. I'm not a monster, Clara. I'm just the one who stopped holding the ladder. And look at you. You didn't even have the sense to learn how to land. I walk away. The vision is on her knees. Cleaning up broken glass with a paper towel. She is crying, but she is careful not to ruin her apron. She only has one. And the dry cleaner doesn't take potential as payment. December 15th, the Surgical Excellence Gala. The ballroom is full of people who solve problems with scalpels. The air smells of expensive scotch and sterilized ambition. I am wearing a dress that cost $4,000. Silk. It feels like a second skin. I am wearing the Akoya pearls. They are cold against my neck. My assistant, Mia, hands me a drink. You look like a legend. Vance, everyone is talking about your steel grip in the OR. It's not a grip, Mia. It's a boundary. The patient survives because I refuse to let the chaos inside the ribcage. Flashback to 2020. My graduation from medical school. I sat in a folding chair on a football field. It was raining. A fine, persistent drizzle. I looked at the crowd. Empty seats. My mother didn't come. Clara has a callback for a shampoo commercial, Elena. It's her big break. A graduation is just a ceremony. But a callback? That's a future. I sat in the rain. I watched 2 other students hug their mothers. I didn't feel sad. I felt audited. I realized that my mother wasn't just absent. She was a debit. And a debit that doesn't show up for the credit is a debt that can never be paid. Now at the gala, a man approaches me. He's a recruiter for a private surgical center in Zurich. Dr. Vance, he says, we've followed your career. We like your transactional approach to medicine. No drama, just results. The starting salary is $650,000. I look at him. I think about the $6 grocery store cake I bought for myself on my graduation day. I think about the 7-Eleven egg salad sandwich I ate for dinner for 2 years. I'm interested, I say. But I have one condition. Anything, my identity remains a ghost. No public profiles. No visionary interviews. I want to be the backbone. The one who stays in the dark. He smiles. A true professional? I take a sip of my scotch. It is a 25-year Macallan. It tastes like smoke and victory. I reach into my clutch and feel my phone. A text message from an unknown number. Susan is at the hospital. Room 402. Pneumonia. She's calling for you. I am a surgeon. I know when a case is terminal. And some things you just don't try to resuscitate. January 5th. The foreclosure is complete. 142 Maple Street. The house is empty. The bridge loan has swallowed the foundation. I am standing on the sidewalk. The for sale sign is leaning at a 15-degree angle. My mother is on the curb. She is sitting on her $3,000 velvet sofa. It was too big for the motel. It was too heavy for the shelter. So it sits on the grass. The rain has started. The velvet is soaking up the water. It looks like a dying animal. It is starting to smell like rot. She is holding a plastic bag of documents. Elena, she says. She doesn't scream anymore. She doesn't have the breath. You bought the debt. I saw the name on the filing. Grey Ghost Capital. That was you. You own the house now. I own the land. Mom, the house is being demolished tomorrow. It's full of black mold and bad memories. The structure is compromised. You're gonna let me sleep on the street? Your own mother? The woman who gave you the pearls? The woman who stole $120,000? I correct her. The woman who gave my life away to a man named Higgins. The woman who called me a sturdy chair. I was trying to make you strong, she wails. Look at you. You're the chief of surgery. You wouldn't be here without me. I am here in spite of you, Mom. A chair is strong because it has to be. But once the person sitting on it starts to rot, the chair moves. I hand her an envelope. It is thin. It contains $500. Exactly the amount she spent on Clara's aura cleansing crystals. This is the final transaction, Susan. It's enough for a bus ticket to your sister's house in Ohio. Or a week at the YMCA. The choice is yours. I'm finally off the clock. I walk to my car. I don't look back. I hear her start to scream. But the bulldozer is pulling up. The engine is loud, the diesel fumes are thick. The sound of the machine drowns out the sound of the mother. Present day, June 12th. 5 years since the St. Jude's Cathedral. I am in Zurich. The Alps are visible from my window. They are white, sharp, stable. I am sitting at my desk, made of solid walnut. $12,000. I have a letter in front of me. It is from a social worker in Ohio. Clara Vance is in a state facility. Mental health issues. She keeps talking about a royal wedding. She keeps asking for white roses. Susan Vance passed away 3 months ago. Unclaimed body. We found your name in an old ledger, the $450 one. I look at the nib. The gold is untarnished. I think about the 15% of the population who get headaches from synthetic vanilla. I think about the 32 pearls in my safe. I think about the $120,000. I don't feel ruined. I don't feel bitter. I feel like a perfectly calibrated instrument. I don't write a check for the funeral. I don't write a letter to the facility. I simply press a stamp onto the document. Red ink. Return to sender. I walk to the balcony. The air is thin. The silence is absolute. I am 34 years old. I am the chief of thoracic surgery. I am a legend in the dark. My mother was right about one thing. I was the anchor. But she forgot that an anchor doesn't just hold the ship. It's the only thing that stays when the ship is gone. I take a deep breath. The weather is perfect. 0% chance of 100% chance of peace. My name is Elena Van. I am the healer. And I have finally healed myself